My name is Sarah Mitchell, and what I'm about to tell you will change everything you thought you knew about the world's highest mountain. It all started 5 years ago when my father, Colonel David Mitchell, a 42-year-old former Navy SEAL turned mountaineer from Colorado Springs, disappeared on Everest under circumstances that the U.S. government desperately wanted to keep classified. Dad wasn't your typical weekend climber. He'd grown up in the Rockies, where Pikes Peak was practically his backyard. After 20 years in the SEALs, including tours in Afghanistan where he'd operated in the Hindu Kush Mountains, he'd retired to pursue his passion for high-altitude climbing. He'd summited Denali, Aconcagua, and had led American expeditions across the 7 summits. Everest was supposed to be his victory lap before settling down to teach at the Army Mountain Warfare School in Vermont. I was working as an investigative reporter for the Washington Post when I got the call. May 15, 2019, Dad had left Camp 4 for his summit push. The weather forecast from NOAA's Specialized Mountain Unit looked perfect. He was climbing with a team of former Special Forces operators, all seasoned mountaineers. These weren't tourists. These were America's elite warriors conquering one more challenge. By noon, an unprecedented storm had engulfed the upper mountain. The official report, classified initially, but later partially released through my FOIA requests, stated that Colonel Mitchell was last seen descending through the whiteout near the Hillary Step. His body was never recovered. The Pentagon sent us a folded flag and their condolences. Mom never recovered. She kept his study in our family home in Aspen, exactly as he'd left it, his medals from Iraq and Afghanistan on the wall, his climbing gear meticulously organized, his worn copy of Into Thin Air still bookmarked on page 247. My younger brother Jake, a Marine officer himself, refused to believe Dad had simply died in a storm. Dad survived Hell Week, 3 combat deployments, and a helicopter crash in Helmand, he'd say. No way a storm took him out. 3 months ago, everything changed. I was in my apartment in Georgetown when I received an encrypted email on my secure Proton Mail account. The sender identified himself only as Patriot. The message was brief. Your father found something. Check with the Czech team that just returned. They have his journal. I flew to Prague immediately. Through my contacts at the State Department, I arranged a meeting with the Czech climbers. They'd found a backpack partially buried near the Rongbuk Glacier. Inside were Dad's military ID, his St. Christopher medal that Mom had given him, and a waterproof journal with property of U.S. government. Stamped on the cover. The team leader, a grizzled mountaineer named Pavel, handed me the journal with shaking hands. Your father, he said in accented English. He discovered something. We read enough to know this is bigger than all of us. Dad's journal started typically. Weather observations, equipment checks, team dynamics. He'd even sketched the view from base camp with surprising artistic skill. But the entry from May 14th changed everything. May 14th, Camp 4, 26,000 feet. During recon today, I diverted from the fixed ropes to investigate what looked like debris from an old expedition. Approximately 100 meters east of the standard route, I found a cave formation. Inside, I discovered equipment and documents that shouldn't exist. This is bigger than Operation Paperclip, bigger than anything we've dealt with before. Operation Paperclip. Dad was referencing the classified post-W2's program where the U.S. recruited Nazi scientists. My hands trembled as I continued reading. I found evidence of a joint U.S.-Soviet expedition from 1962 during the height of the Cold War. Officially, these two nations were enemies, space race rivals nearly at nuclear war over Cuba. But here, on Everest, they were working together. They found something under the ice, ancient structures, predating any known civilization, technology that makes our current capabilities look primitive. The journal detailed his discoveries. Dad had photographed everything with his tactical camera, the same one he'd used on missions in Afghanistan. He described carved structures that couldn't have been built at that altitude, symbols that matched no known language, and most disturbing, modern documents marked Cosmic Clearance, Majestic 12. May 15th, 0300 hours. They know I've found it. Last night, I recognized 2 men at camp, both agency, both from the Special Activities Division. They're not here to climb. I've hidden the memory cards using the SEER protocol location. Only Jake and Sarah know. If you're reading this, Check the old mine shaft on Cheyenne Mountain where we used to explore as kids. The final entry was at 0530. The storm is artificial. Weather modification tech, probably HARP-based. I can hear the helicopters, Black Hawks by the sound. They're not coming to rescue. Sarah, if you find this, don't trust anyone in the intelligence community. The Post won't run this story. They'll invoke national security. Go independent. The American people deserve the truth. I flew back to Denver that day, drove straight to Cheyenne Mountain. Not the NORAD facility, but the abandoned mine shaft where Dad had taught Jake and me survival skills as kids. In a hidden cache, wrapped in military-grade waterproofing, were 4 memory cards. I took them to a hacktivist friend from my MIT days, someone completely off the grid. When he saw the images, he went pale. Sarah, this is why Snowden ran. The photographs showed everything Dad described. But more than that, they showed contemporary classified documents detailing Project Summit, a black budget operation run jointly by the CIA, NSA, and agencies that technically didn't exist. Since the 1960s, multiple governments had been suppressing discoveries on Everest. The commercial climbing industry was the perfect cover. Thousands climbed each year, all following predetermined routes, all kept away from sensitive zones. According to the documents Dad photographed, what they'd found under the ice wasn't just ancient ruins. They'd discovered technology, working technology, energy sources that defied physics, materials unknown to science, and most terrifying, evidence that we weren't the first advanced civilization on Earth. I started investigating carefully, using every source I'd developed over 10 years of investigative journalism. I reached out to other American climbers who'd summited Everest. Most wouldn't talk, but a few, after several bourbons in quiet Denver bars, admitted to seeing things. Lights that shouldn't exist, structures in the ice, sudden military presence at base camp. A retired CIA officer, dying of cancer and beyond caring about consequences, agreed to meet me at his ranch in Montana. Your father stumbled onto the most classified program in existence, he said, oxygen tank wheezing beside him. We've been mining that mountain for technology for 60 years. Every nation with a space program is involved. The Space Force Trump created? That's not about protecting satellites. It's about what we've learned from Everest. He told me about other climbers who discovered too much. Rob Hall in 1996. Not altitude sickness. David Sharp in 2006. Not abandonment. All eliminated to protect the secret. Your father was problematic, he continued. A decorated veteran with unimpeachable credibility. They couldn't just make him disappear without questions, so they used the weather weapon. I returned to D.C. with enough evidence to blow the lid off everything, but I also knew I was now a target. My phone was tapped, my apartment was under surveillance, and I'd noticed the same black SUVs following me for weeks. It was Jake who convinced me to go public. Dad died for this truth, he said during a secure call from his base in Okinawa. His oath was to the Constitution, not to the criminals hiding this. We decided to be strategic. Instead of traditional media, we went through WikiLeaks, independent journalists, and international outlets beyond U.S. jurisdiction. We released the information in waves, making it impossible to suppress entirely. The response was immediate. The Pentagon denied everything. The State Department called it conspiracy theories. But then other whistleblowers started coming forward. A Space Force officer confirmed the technology transfers. A DARPA scientist admitted to reverse engineering artifacts from Everest. A former Secretary of Defense, on his deathbed, recorded a confession about the program. 6 months after I'd started releasing information, I received another encrypted message. National Mall, Lincoln Memorial, midnight. Come alone. Against every instinct, I went. A figure in a dark coat handed me a hard drive. Your father was a patriot, he said. So are we. It's time the American people knew the truth. The drive contained terabytes of classified materials, not just about Everest, but about a massive cover-up involving multiple governments, trillions in black budget funding, and technology that could solve the energy crisis but was being hidden to maintain the current power structure. But the most shocking revelation was in a folder marked Mitchell D. Final Recording. It was a video file, dated May 15, 2019, 0600 hours. Dad's face filled the screen, ice covering his beard, the storm raging behind him. Sarah, Jake, if you're seeing this, it means they got me. But I got the truth out. The structures under Everest aren't just ancient ruins. They're a warning. We're not the first civilization to reach this level of technology. The others destroyed themselves. The governments know this. They're suppressing it not just for power, but because they're terrified of what happens when humanity learns we're repeating the same mistakes. He paused, looking directly at the camera. I'm not making it off this mountain, but you two are my legacy. Expose them all. The American people, all people, deserve to know. I love you both. Tell your mother I'm sorry I couldn't come home. Semper Fi. The video ended. I sat in my apartment, crying for the first time since Dad's disappearance. Then I did what he would have done. I released everything. The story exploded globally. Everest Gate trended worldwide. Congressional hearings were demanded. The UN called for immediate investigation. For the first time in decades, Everest was closed to all climbers. An international team of scientists was sent to investigate. What they found confirmed everything. The structures were real, the technology was real, and most importantly, they found the remains of dozens of climbers who'd been listed as missing over the years, all in zones previously declared off-limits. Among those remains, they found Dad. He hadn't died in a storm. The evidence showed he'd been captured, interrogated, and executed. His crime was being an American patriot who believed in truth over secrecy. The revelations shook the world. Governments fell, intelligence agencies were restructured, and international treaties were rewritten. Everest became an international heritage site under UN control. The technology discovered there is now being studied by open scientific community for the first time. But for me and Jake, victory was bittersweet. Dad was gone, but his sacrifice had meaning. Mom found peace knowing her husband died as he lived, a warrior for truth. Today, 3 years after these revelations, I still receive death threats. There are elements within the deep state that haven't forgiven what I've done. Jake was mysteriously reassigned to a desk job after refusing to participate in a cover-up operation. We both live looking over our shoulders, but we have no regrets. Dad wrote in his journal, "The truth is worth any price." He was right. Everest continues to yield its secrets slowly. The ancient structures have raised more questions than answers. Who built them? Why the warning? Are we doomed to repeat their fate? But one thing is certain. Colonel David Mitchell, a Navy SEAL from Colorado who just wanted to climb the world's highest peak, ended up exposing the greatest conspiracy in human history. His death wasn't an accident. It was an assassination. And his journal, preserved in ice for 5 years, became the key to unlocking a truth that changed everything. Every time I see the Rockies from my window, I think of him, his courage, his integrity, his sacrifice. Dad never made it to the summit of Everest, but he climbed something far higher. He scaled the mountain of lies our government built and planted the flag of truth at its peak. His story continues to inspire whistleblowers worldwide. When Edward Snowden heard about the Mitchell files, he said, "David Mitchell did what I could only dream of. He brought down the entire house of cards." The last words in Dad's journal were, "If I die, let it be for something that matters. Sarah, Jake, tell my story. Make sure they remember that an American soldier stood for truth when it counted. We haven't forgotten you, Dad. The whole world knows your story now. And America, the country you loved and served, is finally a little more honest because of you. Your death wasn't in vain. You conquered the highest summit of all, the peak of truth. And from up there, I know you're watching, finally at peace, finally free." Dad's journal is now displayed in the Smithsonian, protected by bulletproof glass. Thousands visit daily. Next to it, his Navy SEAL trident and his climbing axe. The inscription reads, "Colonel David Mitchell, he climbed for truth."